Hey, how's it going, y'all? Rafa the Pickleball Tech Dude here. Wanted to do a really quick segment here. Me and Aaron just finished recording the pod, and one of the last things that we talked about was the official reveal of the paddle that I'm going to be using for the bread and butter nerdy tourney coming up that I'm playing with Chris Olson from the Pickleball Studio. Just wanted to redo that really quick because at the time I didn't have my paddle. It was off in my bag somewhere. So just really need to really quickly reveal that to y'all. So my weapon of choice, and I do have the gold bread and butter birthday version, which I will be using for the actual tournament itself. It'll be the only time I use that paddle. But what I am rolling with will be none other than the Fat Boy. The only reason I'm using this, to be honest, is because none of us chose what gold paddle birthday edition we were sent, but I got the Fat Boy, and I can't just not use it. So I'm rolling with the Fat Boy. I'm going to give it the same weight setup as I have here on my OG. So it's 2 grams of tungsten tape at the very top here. So that's that. And then we have a tacky Bodie overgrip. And then over the first overgrip, it's actually 2 Bodie overgrips. So I put one over the stock grip, and then I put this little pink thing that you see sticking out here. This is actually called a trigger grip. And we didn't get to talk about these today. I'll get you guys Aaron's thoughts as well as mine in full for the next pod that we shoot together. But I love this. This is really helping me really figure out the semi-western grip a little bit more that I'm trying to use a bit more, especially from the baseline. And if you're very intentional about where you put it, it actually doesn't hinder your backhand at all. So that's really great, super durable. But essentially, in order to keep it in place, you have to put a grip over it. And one thing that I struggle with is putting a lot of pressure on my grip. So like pretty much just holding the paddle with enough pressure. So I went ahead and I put an overgrip on the stock grip, and then I put a second overgrip over the trigger grip. So this is basically triple gripped with the trigger grip right under the first one. And of course, again, these are Bodie tacky grips, which are some of my favorite. And you've also got the Bodie tungsten tape up at the top. And that is the setup. Now let's go ahead and we'll launch into the pod for this week. Do the 3.
Oh, I gotta do it?
Do it. It's supposed to be 3.
Oh, shit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There we go. We're professionals.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of This Week in Pickleball. I'm Rafa.
I'm Aaron.
All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and just jump straight in here today. Aaron, we've got a few really exciting pieces of equipment to talk about today. The first thing that we're going to talk about is these pickleballs from HAQ Pickleball, I believe is how you pronounce it.
HAQ.
HAQ. So these are marketed as outdoor balls. We played with these for a few minutes earlier. Would you describe this as an outdoor ball?
No, it's a little too soft. Feels more like an indoor ball.
Yeah, you can literally...
They're very soft.
You can squish this ball practically in half without too much effort. The other thing, this would be a great indoor ball. The other thing, though, is that this would never be approved for like a even if you want to host an indoor tournament, this would never get approved because it's only 34 holes. So that's my issue with it. But other than that, again, cool indoor ball. The crazy thing about these is they are pickle-shaped holes. These are pickle-shaped holes, which is kind of cool. Somebody made a comment that they kind of look like bats, so I can see the confusion there. But also, yeah, they're very squishy, would be good indoor balls, like for fun. Because again, 34 holes is neither the 40 you need for outdoor approved play, nor is it 26 for indoor?
I'm not sure. But I mean, okay, Selkirk is what, 38?
It is? Oh, is that why it doesn't get used as like a
know.
regular ball? I
Is
think is it not USA? Is it a USAP approved ball?
Not sure. I mean, but I played tournaments where Selkirk has been used.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so
yeah.
maybe it is. I thought the rule was that it had to be 40. Maybe that's just a lie.
Imaginary rule.
A lie, yeah, a lie that I fed myself. But yeah, anyways, I think these are like really cool, like fun balls. Like I would recommend these to like a beginner or somebody who just doesn't play frequently.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are definitely not made for outdoors.
The holes are actually kind of fun to like rub your fingers across because it's like kind of a sharp edge on all of the like pickle cutouts.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. But yeah, no, these are interesting. I'm going to hold on to this right here while we move on to the next thing. Let's go ahead, and now we're going to talk Friday Fever. So these came in a little earlier today. I originally was not super intrigued by them, but I got a lot of messages. What were your thoughts?
Sick. I mean, no, it pretty smooth, but for 99 bucks, it's a no-brainer if you are looking to get into the sport of pickleball and you want something that has current tech.
Yeah, exactly. I think this, dare I say, the best power paddle that you can get for under $100. Like,
Yes.
there are, you can always, there's videos on there, or out there on YouTube. You can buy dupes off Alibaba, like mod dupes for like $30, or maybe it's more like 80 now because
Those
of tariffs.
aren't really legal.
They're not legal. Don't do that. Never, like, you might see those videos. Don't do that. But also they take like weeks to get here. The Friday paddles, they're really cool design. Like, my main qualms are really just the handle. Like,
Yeah.
the handle. I'm not a big stitch grip guy.
Yeah, the grips are a little bit too large stock.
Yeah.
They're a little bit flatter. They're not as rounded. The bevels aren't as pronounced. But I think the design is actually pretty fun. It's not overdone. I like the way the Fever is spelled out. I like the text, the graphic.
Yeah.
I wish there was more texture, but you said something about you thought it was going to feel like a really cheap paddle, but when we're hitting it, it didn't actually feel that cheap, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, we hit the Ace One a couple weeks back. That's the $50 paddle. Granted, $50, but pretty much, again, my only qualm with it was the fact that the handle felt cheap. It's something that you can live with it because it's $50 and it still plays great for that price. But other $99 paddles, pretty much with the only exception of Vatic, really you can feel the cheapness in the handle. This, again, the stitch grip is not my favorite, but it overall feels very solid. And
It's pretty light.
it's light, yeah. So, like, we're going to talk about another Gen 3 here in a moment, where it is, again, it's a powerful paddle that's not insane levels of power. Probably, I would say this is like low power / all court, like high all court leaning power. But yeah, exactly what you said. I think at the $100 price point right now, you pretty much could only rely on Vatic Pro, but those paddles are very control oriented. If you want a power paddle and you're trying to get into it, you're not trying to spend a fortune, I think this is the deal right now.
I think
Like,
it's a really good deal. Yeah, I mean, I personally still would play the Vatic Saga 14 because I think that has similar power.
It has similar vibes.
To this.
Yeah.
And I just kind of like the feel off that one a little bit better.
This,
But again,
the 16 or the 14?
14.
Okay, agreed.
Yeah, 14 millimeter.
Yeah. These are 16 mil,
But
but your classic.
If you went out and bought this and someone recommended it to you, I don't think you'd be disappointed.
Not at all. Like, I'd buy this at retail again because there's probably, I'm gonna talk to the Friday guys. There's probably discount codes, affiliate programs and stuff. So this might be even cheaper.
Yeah, this is actually the first Friday paddle I've ever hit. But I was one of the people that was like hounding you. I was like, yo, we have to try this paddle. We have to review this paddle.
You did? Yeah.
So,
Aaron was the first one to message me about this. I've hit other Friday paddles in the past, and again, they are also in that like $50 range, so I wasn't super impressed by the performance. These, they exceeded my expectations in everything except the grit level, which isn't a terrible thing because, again, like, grit is controversial. Grit is controversial, but yeah, nice dwell time, really good Gen 3 feeling without the over-the-top uncontrollable power.
Yep.
Very nice. Very nice here, Friday. Good stuff. Alrighty. Now let's move on to essentially the next half of the pod is essentially the Wang Yung paddle pod at this point. We're going to first talk about
these are all kind of like first impressions of these paddles here. So
yeah,
you want to talk about Sypik here?
Let's talk about Sypik. We finally, so I'm gonna say we finally got these paddles. Essentially, these are gonna be our first impressions. Sypik is kind of sorting everything out with U.S. manufacturers, or rather U.S. distributors, from what I can tell right now. So we don't actually, these aren't actually ours. These belong to the Dallas ambassador, Francis. So shout out to Francis. I'm gonna put his.
He's the goat.
He's the goat. I'm gonna put his credentials here, but these are his, and he allowed us to hit with them. So at this point, find a rep, see if you can get your hands on one. Let's start with the 3 actually, because this is the paddle that Wang Yung is supposed to be playing with. This is his like main thing. This thing is gritty as hell.
Yeah, it's also beautiful.
It's very aesthetically pleasing. The build quality feels great. They're gonna have like different gradients.
I think they have 5 different gradients.
Yeah.
But again, this is the one that I was hitting, and we both hit. And I always talk about like my unmarked having insane levels of grit. This is comparable to that. I don't think it's more.
I think it might be.
It might be.
I think
it's comparable.
It's comparable.
Similar.
Yeah. I think if anything, maybe the actual grit level is taller.
Yeah, like you can actually, when you look at the paddle face, like from an angle, you can definitely see like larger, kind of like more of the a texture on it, as opposed to just like feeling it where you see the grit.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my macro lens to this when I can and try to see what this looks like. But yeah, I would say comparable grit level, but more powerful, and otherwise kind of reminiscent of if you took the plow through and stability of the Mark, but then gave it
power, a floating core or a Gen 3 thing. Yeah.
Right, like more powerful, like that plush feeling that you're kind of used to from other floating core paddles, which is a great combo. It feels really nice.
I think coming off the face when we're hitting, we're like, it's really crisp, right?
Really crisp feeling.
Not quite so plush, right? But more crisp, or would you say plush as well?
I would say it's plush, but not as plush as other floating core paddles. Like we're talking like 11-6-24, Yola, Wilson. Those paddles, you really feel the ball sit on the face for a long time, versus the ball still dwells on this, but like you said, it just comes off faster. It's more poppy than those.
But it was surprisingly easy to control.
Very easy to control.
Right?
Yeah.
But the thing that I like most about this is, again, like the design on the paddle plus the way it plays. And I think the price is pretty good. I think it's what, $225? I think that's what Francis was telling us, is $225.
Something like that, yeah, $220, $225.
Yeah.
Yeah, which isn't bad.
Solid paddle. Very
solid. And yeah, essentially I think if you find some of the paddles that are in the 250 to 280 range, like your Yolas, your gearboxes, if you find those like too powerful, too uncontrollable, and you're looking for a slightly cheaper alternative and one that still hits pretty hard, then I really thought this was going to be a Yola knockoff. Like I just have to address the elephant in the room. I really thought that this was just going to be a Pro 4 knockoff, and it's not.
I'm buying this over the Yola Pro 4.
What? Really?
I am.
Why?
Well, but granted, I'm not buying right now, but it's cheaper, and I'm not getting $60 more performance out of a Pro 4 than I am on this.
Okay, that's where my brain is at too. I wanted if you put it into words, that's exactly my feeling as well. It
looks so much better.
It looks a lot cooler. Unfortunately, I was never really a fan of the Pro 4 design, and that paddle it rocks.
One thing I would say, the swing weight's a little bit high. I think it leans pretty head heavy.
Yeah.
But solid paddle.
Yeah.
I think when it becomes available, I'm probably gonna get one.
Yeah, I think definitely. I hit this and the Friday Fever side by side. I would say that this is maybe a little bit more powerful, but what really puts this over the top compared to other Gen 3s, why would I pay $220? High grit level, clearly really
You can like
cool
file your
design.
nails down.
Yeah, you can cut somebody with that grit.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
And yeah, just that crisp, really solid ball contact that not all elongated paddles actually have.
Mhm.
So dope paddle, really good stuff. Now let's move on to let's go technically backwards to the
Back in
2.
time.
I actually liked this one more than the 3.
Yeah. Gen 2. So for those who don't know, I think how it is 2 Pro is Gen 2 and then 3 is Gen 3.
Yeah.
This grip stock feels amazing.
Great. Surprisingly good.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just the shape, but I like the sort of their logo design into the handle. Like it just sits in your hand very nicely.
Yeah, and the it's like nice pronounced little bevels. I think the way they do it is very, it could just be an optical illusion for me, but it feels very kind of similar to like the Pro XR grips where parts of one of the bevels is a little bit longer than one of the other ones. So like in your hand, it feels that it just kind of sits nice and rounded here.
A little more ergonomic, yeah. 100%.
Not the same grit as the 3.
No, more smooth for sure.
A little bit more smooth, but again, it still has adequate texture.
Yes, agreed. I feel like this is sort of the amount of texture that companies should strive for if you're not trying to go super over the top like Mark is and like they are on the 3.
Yeah.
This is what you should have at the minimum because this feels right, feels consistent in both directions, which is definitely something I look for. I felt that the stability on this one was better. It's better balanced. It's still head heavy,
Yeah.
but not as head heavy as that was. And just again, very solid all court paddle, but very hard to find anything wrong with how it plays.
Yep.
It ticks all the boxes. With most Gen 3s and with a paddle like the Triton 3, you have the drawbacks like the high swing weight primarily, and the sweet spot feels good, but feels, pretty much the same as any other Gen 3. This, if I'm thinking about the average Gen 2, to me, felt like it had a wider sweet spot, more solid contact
I thought it had a really large sweet spot.
Yeah, like way larger than the average for this type of elongated shape, which is a lot of people's preferred shape. Yeah, these would, and I think these are 150, 160.
I think 150 when the discount codes become active.
Okay, gotcha. So
Yeah,
they're probably like 170.
170, 175.
Yeah.
Maybe 180.
Yeah. This is extremely competitive.
Yeah.
This is very, very good. And again, the design, just they do the gradient well. This reminds me of Gherkin a little bit, the sort of swirly kind of esque thing going on here.
When we hit those nightshades, if I'm thinking back, I think I would 100% choose this over the nightshades.
Yeah. The nightshades essentially were great. They're poppier paddles than this. Probably because they're 14 mil and this is 16. But in any case, if I'm thinking in this range of 150 to 180 MSRP, this is a paddle that you could very easily recommend to pretty much anybody.
Yeah, I would play with it.
Yeah, dude.
I would potentially pay full price on it.
Yeah, I was really concerned with Sypik coming into the game here in America, and I think that they could kill it. They could really kill it with these. These are very, very good.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
I think once we get potentially, like when we reach out again to see if we can, get more time with these.
Yeah.
I think we can have like a better discussion on it. But first impressions wise, impressed.
Love it. Yeah. Very good. Very good. All right. And so now to get to the paddle that QD ended up using after his paddle failed. I'm not sure why his paddle failed, to be fair, but this is what happened here. So what we've got here are finally the Holbrook Armas. So let me think about how to go about this properly. Let's go shape for shape here. So essentially Holbrook, we've got the T shape, which is the long handle elongated version. You have the X shape, which is the same length but a shorter handle on the X. And then you have the S shape. And the S shape is just there. I think this is the same handle length as actually it's the same handle length as the X, but obviously standard shape. And which was your favorite shape out of the three?
You already know. I like the T.
You like the T?
I like that elongated shape with the
long handle.
long handle.
Okay. Typically, you're not a long handle guy.
I'm not,
typically.
but it's not actually that long. I mean, like, it's 5'5".
Yeah, ish.
This is good.
Probably longer than that.
Yeah, I don't know. It felt right.
It feels right. Yeah. And so yeah, for like feeling wise, design wise, again, I've always thought that Holbrook's designs were sick. I think that this is absolutely no exception. This whole, again, we're seeing this sort of pattern here with etching your logo into the stock grip. I wonder if this is going to be more popular because I haven't been seeing this until Sypik, and then now Holbrook might see this more often. That would be cool. But yeah, the grip's a little square. So if you prefer, again,
Not that square.
it's square though.
I think it only feels square because it's larger.
Okay,
Slightly
I agree.
larger than the Sypik.
Yeah, so the Sypik, again, you're kind of dealing with something that's longer more than it's wider, like what you were saying about the bevels there. This one, they feel a little bit more square, which honestly, I mean, the grip still feels great. It's not a bad thing. It still feels really good. Okay, so tell me, so now these are going to be released 280 for carbon fiber, but we're also getting metallic shapes here. Tell me what you felt ball feel wise, the difference between the carbon fiber versus the metallic.
I don't even know. I think you generate more RPMs off of this face here. But the ball definitely comes off way fast. Well, not way faster, but it comes off faster off the raw carbon fiber.
I agree. Yeah, there is a slightly better ability to feel the ball on these, and like you said, a little bit perhaps more dwell time that gives you, because this PET weave gives you that softness. But at the same time, the carbon fiber paddles felt like the sweet spots were a little bit more forgiving. So it's kind of
like the feel of the carbon fiber more than I like this.
I think they got the grit level a bit better on the carbon fiber ones than the titaniums, but yeah, very, very fine feeling, not super coarse.
Shark skin.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, better than the smoothness that we saw on the Fridays and on other paddles. But yeah, so design wise, they look sick. They felt good. Now let's address the elephant in the room. These things are very powerful.
Cannons.
Absolute rocket launchers.
It will take an arm off.
It's so fucking corny. I love it. No, but yeah, these hit the ball hard.
I don't think I've ever served that hard before. I'm not a big guy either.
Yeah, because we played with somebody earlier who's taller than both of us, and his serves were they're unreturnable. We had another an amateur, probably average player, right, try to return both your serve and his, and literally could not return the serve. And then brought him to the other side of the net to try to hit his serves, and they were literally going
over the fence,
double court length, over the enclosures here at Pickleball Kingdom, which are they're pretty well sectioned off dimension wise.
Yeah.
And the ball is just going completely over the fence. Like, these are going to be very difficult for a beginner to intermediate player to control because of that level of power. But
we're not sure how they passed.
We're not, that's going to be a good conversation. Because, yeah, I remember, like, I can't help but go back. We keep talking about the ripples week in, week out because they're so highly anticipated. If you wanted your ripple the V2 to have the same amount of power as the original, you're not going to have that. If you switched and you came and got this, this is what you were looking for in terms of power. If you wanted something close to the OG Ripple power.
This is similar to OG Ripple.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Not in terms of feel, I would say it has less dwell time, less plushness, a lot of those things that...
It sounds like a cannon when you hit the ball. Like, you hit the ball square in a serve or like any ball just clean on the center.
Yeah.
It's like pop. Like,
yeah.
almost like, you know, the original Core Crusher delaminated paddles where it sounded like a rocket or a cannon.
It sounds like a very well used floating core paddle, like a super... If any of y'all have played against, unfortunately had the experience of playing against a core crushed Yola or a core crushed
Or like
11624 or the 1X, the original
1X?
Power Series.
Oh,
Yeah, the way that those sound, those like hollow crack sounds,
solid.
is how the, like, bounce that HAQ Pickleball. I think this is the one, right? This is the
X.
So that's what that sounds like. You can notice, again, the main thing about these Holbrook paddles was the dual density of the cores. So you have a smaller cell size right here, sort of making kind of like an oval shape on the paddle. And then right above it, kind of like the cap on a ribeye steak, you've got these like wider cells. And of course it's surrounded by squishy or foam that goes all the way down into the handle like this. And kind of what you were... So if we hit this again, right?
You can hear like a very vast different noise.
Yes.
Depending on where you hit the ball on the paddle.
Yeah, so this side where the more dense and the smaller diameter cells are, you get kind of like that more classic sort of sound. And then as you move,
it gets deep.
Higher up, it gets deeper, it gets hollower.
Hits harder.
And you get that U sound and it hits harder. We tried hitting serves here, which were still powerful, and then hitting them here where it feels most natural and where the real sweet spot is.
You could bag someone off of a serve from the back.
You could murder somebody from the baseline with this.
Yes.
And it's interesting, we only got that sort of different sound here on this X paddle. If you hear the rest of these, it just sounds the same as it did on the lower side, on the higher density cell section of this. Even on this X, I thought maybe like the metallic ones would work in a bit faster or something, but these still sound the same. They hit hard as crap, but they sound the same.
Yeah, so we were trying to figure out whether or not we had like core crushed or delammed this paddle after just hitting serves, but we pressed the core, the face, and couldn't feel anything.
Everything feels totally fine.
So maybe it broke in, or maybe it's just this specific model, but it hits hard.
It hits very, very hard. And it's just, they're fun to mess around with.
Yeah, I would say I probably wouldn't recommend this paddle for people who are below 4.0.
Yeah, because, how did you feel on resets? Like from the mid-court, how were these feeling?
It felt fine, actually. I was surprised. I was going to be afraid that, like, with how much power I was generating, that when I have to take off power, it would be like my ESQC 12 millimeter.
Yeah.
I had a really hard time resetting with that paddle because it was so poppy.
Right.
I think this has equal levels of power or pop, right? But
easily,
I could reset.
You can reset.
So,
one comment that I made, and it's funny, I knew this was going to happen with a company that didn't specifically market that this was what they were going for. But you see companies really often talking about being able to, hit soft on the soft shots and hit harder on the hard shots. That's not something that I think Holbrook is really going, like, it's not something that they are going to specifically market. But I think they should, because this is one of the first paddles I've ever felt where I had that experience. Like you experienced with the resets, right? You were hitting bombs. We were hitting bombs with serves. And yet on resets and on dinks, I actually hit the ball in the net several times because I didn't realize that you do need a little bit more manual input when you're going for those shots. So it's so nice to know that at the net and on the resets, you can reliably not pop the ball up as much as you would with other power paddles. And yet, when you're hitting drops and especially drives from the baseline, they take almost no effort.
Yeah.
These are really sick.
And even though there's not actually that much grit, I felt like I was getting decent shape on topspin drops.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So I don't even really know which one I like the best out of all four.
They all feel so good.
They all feel good.
They all feel really good. I think the hand speed is better with this.
Yeah.
They feels lighter for sure. But these aren't over the top. I wouldn't say that they're not super head heavy like your Marked or like your Sypik Triton 3 and whatnot.
I could play them stock. All four I could play stock.
Yeah. Definitely you get the tight-ish but sweet spot on these two, but they feel forgiving. Like you can tell where the drop off is from the sweet spot, but it's not very sharp. It's forgiving. This S though, like the whole thing.
The whole thing is good.
Feels nice.
Yeah.
All of it.
S for snub nose.
Snub nose. Sure. Yeah. For me personally, I'm always a standard or wide body guy, but I really do think the X is also, I think the X is probably my favorite just because of the long handle.
The X, really?
Or sorry, wait.
The T?
No, the X. The X is the long handle, Aaron.
What is this one?
The T is the... Wait a second. Am I confusing myself? I confused myself. I'm sorry. You're so right. It's the T.
Yeah.
I was just about to patronize you. It's the T.
Yeah.
Oh, and look at the butt cap. Nice red metallic butt cap. I love that. This is so cool. Just like...
Very good design.
Holbrook, I gave y'all my flop of the year last year for the Arrow. I got a lot of flack for that because it turns out that that paddle actually had a decent following, but I personally just hated it. This is such a massive comeback. This is like...
Buy all four. Yeah.
These are, and again, we're talking $260 on the metallics, $280 for the raw carbon fiber. Obviously, post discount code, you're 20 to 30, almost $30 less than that. I'm taking these over probably a Yola and probably Gearbox at the price range.
I'm 100% buying this over a Yola, but I'm not recommending these to every person.
That's also true. Yeah. In context, you can recommend a Yola, probably not a Gearbox to be fair, but you can recommend a Yola at least to pretty much anybody. These definitely are at a level of power and at a level of precision.
So my friend was saying, if we're going to rec play with these and we just see like random people with these, we're putting on our like safety glasses for sure.
Yeah,
it's like
you need them.
Your people are just gonna rip balls and like your people are gonna get hit.
Yeah, it's gonna be nuts.
So,
but yeah, that's the ARMA. I'm excited to hit these more, and we'll learn more about these. So for you guys to look forward to next week, I'm actually going to have a couple of the Holbrook guys in. We're gonna have Tyler Baldwin and one of the co-founding Holbrooks himself. We're gonna have him here on the pod, and we're going.
It's called Holbrook. Is it their last name?
It is his last name. Isn't that it? That's top 5 white last names I've ever heard in my life. And funny story, I'm gonna ask them about this again on the pod, but I don't believe they wanted to use their last name as the brand name. Like they were like, oh, it's too cheap. Like it's just sitting right there. Holbrook is such a cool name. It sounds like it should be like a luxury clothing brand name. But yeah, they are fortunate enough to have that as their last name. But yeah, so those guys are going to be on the pod next week, so that's going to be sick. Me and Aaron are hopefully going to hit these with them and talk shop about these. So we're gonna get into the nitty gritty on these. We're gonna ask the tough questions. Is this paddle delammed or is it? Delam is such a small issue. It almost never happens anymore because thermoforming tech has gotten so good. At the same time, the type of sound that this is making is getting very close.
I did hit one serve, and we both looked at each other and we're like, wait, did we core crush this thing already in 10 minutes?
But again, the integrity...
It's fine. No noise.
Close to my mic. Absolutely nothing. Like, still completely holds up. Not even... No loose glue. No rattling. Like, these are clearly built better than a lot of what's out there.
Built different.
Built Ford tough, these things, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, so the dual density area is probably going to be the most interesting to talk about, and we'll get to all that. All right, Aaron. Well, that takes care of us here. This was another fun chat. I freaking I've been looking forward to this episode again because we had the Fridays absolute bangers for 99 bucks. Sypik completely blew expectations out of the water and can confirm or not Yola knockoffs like I thought they were.
Yep.
And these Armas are just rockets.
Are amazing.
There you go. Alrighty. Well, that's going to take care of us here. Again, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below what your thoughts are if you've hit any of the paddles we talked about today, or if you just want to ask me and Aaron any questions. We respond to pretty much all the comments. So yeah, with that being said, hope you all stay happy and healthy. And of course, out on the courts, until the next one. Peace. Bam.
25 minutes? Did we get it?
I don't know. I'll have to check afterwards.
Oh.